On doing the newscast, we had the monitor start smoking and catch on fire. And I was in the middle of a newscast and I couldn't stop. And so I had to wait until I had a sound bite and run to the door and shout out, "The studio's on fire!" and then run back in to finish that story and then go into the next one. So I'm pretty good about ignoring distractions.
My name is Maggie Brennan. I've been with WCBE since my internship since 1993. We'll be excited to have more kids involved and more programming with that, whether they're going to be hosting some of the shows or behind the scenes or even some of the bands playing live in Studio A.
It's a nice, wholesome place where you can see how the radio gets made. I've been involved with the station since I was a teenager. Around 14 years old was the first time that I went in and did any volunteer work for them. The people who work there know their stuff and make a really great environment for a learning opportunity.
Before I came to WCBE, I was a professional jazz musician. And then I got a job at Fort Hays. On my first day of teaching, I ran out the door and I ran next door and I knocked on the door and I went and I said, "Who's playing that stuff? That is really cool." And then the secretary said, "I think you need to go in the back." So she let me in the back, and the next thing he was going to play was a piece of jazz music, and I have an encyclopedic knowledge of it. So I started telling him exciting things about the thing he was about to play. He said, "Wait just a minute." And he put a mic in front of my face, and for about 10 years then, I was Jim, the wacky sitcom neighbor next door. And I would just barge into people's radio shows and start talking.
It, number one, gave me an opportunity to reunite with Jim Manieri, who I knew from when he was in college and I worked at another radio station. And as a matter of fact, I hadn't had that type of conversation about music probably in 10, 15 years. That's one of the reasons why I do this.
So fun. I mean, I'm a radio girl anyways, but I also am the receptionist, so I get to greet them, bring them into the station, welcome them, and Chris Robinson Brotherhood came through, and Chris Robinson, I just love the Black Crowes, so meeting him, I was kind of geeking out a little bit.
I'm in my 23rd year, and probably the last handful have been the most rewarding and fulfilling. That combination that I love of music and story, the sort of story behind the music. That's a really good combination. When a listener says that they value that and they got something from that and they now are a fan of that artist, that is truly inspiring.
I've had a long relationship with WCBE. Years ago, I started a little show called Cinema Classics with a buddy of mine, John DeSando. And we've been talking about movies on there for years. And then the opportunity came up. There was a job opening, and I thought, wow, I love this place. I love the people that work there. I love the vibe there.
I still feel that it is a group of people who are making this all happen. And we're all counting on each other and building on what each other does. And that's an unusual and awesome experience.
Well, greetings to all of our elementary staff, both our principals and our teachers. I bring you greetings from our superintendent, Dr. Dixon, and our Chief of Transformation and Leadership, Angela Chapman, who you will also hear from. We are excited to celebrate you on your wonderful accomplishment of meeting the interim literacy goal. We have made a significant investment in you, both in our resources and in our instructional processes through our foundations, our letters, our HMH and Hagerty and Just Words. And we know that it takes not only implementation fidelity, but also instructional fidelity to meet goals and move the needle forward. We celebrate you, we recognize you, we honor you, and we appreciate you. Have a wonderful day.
It is my pleasure and honor to recognize our staff, teachers, and leaders for their collective work in supporting early literacy. We celebrate our teachers for your willingness to embrace research-based literacy practices, providing grade-level curriculum to students and the necessary scaffolds that students need to be successful. For our principals, we commend you for maintaining a laser-like focus on literacy in your schools. Because of your efforts, we are narrowing achievement gaps in early literacy, meeting and exceeding goals for our youngest literacy learners. As a district, we are building a strong foundation for our students that will set them up for success in school and beyond. In essence, the culmination of our curricular changes are addressing what the National Reading Panel indicated was needed more than 25 years ago. But without the right people in the right places, none of this would be occurring. Thank you for being the right teachers and leaders for our students and our community. Because of your work, we are transforming what an urban school district can be in CCS, and we thank you for your efforts.
Our story begins in the 1950s. That's when a boy on an Italian vacation with his family brought home as many as 10 common European wall lizards to his home in Cincinnati, Ohio. He released them into his backyard, and over the years, the population in the Cincinnati area exploded. The lizards have now made their way to Columbus, specifically Columbus Downtown High School's parking lot. The issue here? As an invasive species, they could disrupt the ecosystem in Ohio and could have a negative impact on native wildlife. With that happening outside, students inside the school jumped at the opportunity to catch and study these lizards, working with Ohio Wesleyan University, the Ohio State University, and the Ohio Division of Wildlife. Mr. Hatoski's junior and senior environmental science classes are taking on the project. They were trained by OSU's Greg Lips and OWU's Eric Gangloff to master capturing techniques and handling practices.
This is a unique opportunity. Very rarely do we catch an invasive species before it spreads far out. You know, once it spreads throughout the city of Columbus, we won't be able to do anything about it. But here it's just in one little location. So it gives us an opportunity to try to capture them all and keep them from spreading throughout Columbus and further. And what we've done is we've removed all the vegetation from around the parking lot. And the lizards were very hard to capture when there was all that vegetation. They could hide down in it. So now it's barren. But we've given them ceramic tiles, laid those out all over through here to give some artificial cover, a place for the lizards to hide, and that's actually what they like. They like rock more than they like vegetation to hide in. So we're gonna keep doing this and keep checking over and over again until we're certain that we don't have any lizards remaining here. And if we accomplish that, it'll be one of the very few examples we have of successfully eradicating an invasive species before it takes hold.
I ain't gonna lie, I was like, you know, lizards, you know, there's part of the way, but then I, you know, discovered there was like rare lizards. I was like, oh, okay, this might be something that we may be able to do, just to learn, you know, more about lizards in general.
And as you're walking along, sort of thinking like a lizard, looking at any places where like the sun comes through and makes a nice like bright spot, or even in some of the leaf litter here, would be a good spot for them to go if they weren't necessarily, if the tiles weren't warm enough yet, or if they just hadn't chosen to go under one.
Quickly into their first search, lizards were spotted in their preferred habitat, cracks in the walls.
Good afternoon. We are calling our Audit and Accountability Committee meeting for March 23rd, 2023 to order. Please call the roll.
Ms. Beckerly? Ms. Vera?
Here.
Mr. Grant?
Here.
Mr. Vajan?
Here.
Ms. Reyes? Mr. Jordan? Here. Mr. Daniel?
Present.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you. This evening, afternoon, we will be going into executive session. And then after that, we will return back here for adjournment. Does anyone have any questions or anybody not want to go into executive session? Okay. So I will go ahead and read the motion. Pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 121.22G1, it is recommended that the Audit and Accountability Committee of the Board of Education move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, or compensation of public employees. Is there a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Ms. Vera?
Yes.
Mr. Grant?
Yes.
Mr. Vajan?
Yes.
Mr. Jordan?
Yes.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, we will adjourn into the next room, and then we will come back to close the meeting out. Thank you.